Hi guys, I'm here to talk to you today about judicial clerkships. I have a whole nother video about how to actually get one, but I've had other people ask me like, what's the point of getting one? And I'm going to talk to you about why you perhaps should get one. It's not for everybody. They are not all created equal. There are certain ones that are trial ones versus appellate ones, and how even if you get the coveted judicial clerkship, it can be a signing bonus for almost $500,000 for you post the clerkship. So let's talk about it. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, we talk about pre-law, law school, and beyond. And this video is for people who perhaps are in law school and are contemplating getting a judicial clerkship post-law school. So I know there's been the term judicial clerk has been thrown around a lot. Some people say they're law clerks before they even graduate. And what I'm talking about is a post-law school clerkship. And what it usually is you're paired with a judge. It can be one or more law clerks that are paired with a judge. It could be at the trial level or at the appellate level. And basically you are in the judge's chambers helping him or her write decisions, figure out what the evidence is, manage parties. You're going to gain a lot of skills that you're going to be able to put on your resume. Once you finish this clerkship, you're going to learn personal skills, you're going to learn time management skills, supervisory skills, all that kind of stuff you'll learn by having a judicial clerkship, and you can take it wherever you're actually going to go after the clerkship. So I'm going to kind of break down what it was like in my own clerkship that I had. It was for 2 years. And then I'm going to also talk about other clerkships that are out there. For those of you who are interested in appellate clerkships, I actually did a trial court clerkship, but there are appellate level clerkships. And to tell you the difference between a day in the life of somebody who does a trial court and somebody who does appellate court. So let's talk about all that. Okay, so if you wanted to actually get a clerkship, a lot of the clerkships are open. Their applications are open starting around now in September. And they kind of run through May of, the year that you're actually going to be starting the clerkship. But what you want to do is decide what kind of clerkship you want to have. As I mentioned before, there are different types. I did a trial court clerkship, and I was actually in the DC area doing my clerkship, and I was matched with a judge who had a busy trial calendar and was a busy motions calendar. So our day was moving pretty fast every day. It was something new. The trials resolved pretty quickly. He was on the misdemeanor calendar for most of my time there. So those resolved pretty much within a day or so. He did have some leftover felony matters that lasted longer than a day. But on a daily basis, I would come in, good morning, judge. I would usually arrive before the judge got to chambers, make sure everything was set up. Usually the day before I had already pulled out, he was old school, so I actually had the paper files of all of the things that were set on the calendar for the day. And I would let him know if there's any trials, if there are any motions pending from any of the parties, any other issues that may have come up. My job as a law clerk was to manage all that, so his job was only to focus on being the judge for that day. All the time management, all the making sure things are on the calendar correctly, that was my job. So you're going to be wearing multiple hats when you're a law clerk. A lot of the judges also have secretaries or judicial administrative assistants who are supposed to take care of the administrative work, but sometimes you may be wearing that hat as well. So just keep in mind that this will test your ability to multitask to the finest level. So when I came in the morning, I would make sure nothing has been put on the calendar from the day before, because a lot of times there will be new things added. Maybe somebody got arrested the day before and they needed to be arraigned. I would make sure that that's on the calendar, make sure we had a file folder for that. Check with our courtroom clerk, who basically was managing the court. In the courtroom, I was the one basically managed things before they get there. And he had a courtroom clerk that would make sure that whenever the judge, a defendant is adjudicated guilty or found not guilty, that information was put in the system. She would call the people up from the jail that needed to be called from the jail. So she took care of a lot of that work, but it was definitely a team effort, right? So it's your judicial clerk, the secretary, the courtroom clerk. We basically worked all together to make sure that the judge's job was easier. So I said this is on the trial calendar. This is way different from if you were going to go on the appellate calendar, because a lot of times they would have, let's say they had not as many things on the calendar for the day because they were basically reviewing the record of the trial judge. So it's probably not as exciting. I can't speak directly for it because I didn't do it personally, but I spoke to other people who were clerking for appellate judges and their day was not as exciting, right? That could be a good or bad thing, depending on what your level of comfort is, what you prefer. If you like the fast-paced thing, you may want to clerk for a trial court judge. So keep that in mind. I would basically, if I had to prepare a memorandum, let's say there were opposing motions, I would prepare a internal memorandum to the judge to say what I think he should decide on it. Basically, distill a lot of information into 1 to 2, 3 pages so that he can quickly see what is going on. He may end up deciding it on by doing an order, or he may wait till he actually gets to court and just do it on the record. So these are all things that I had to do, like my writing skills, my time management skills. All these things are important because fast forward to where I'm at in my career now, I'm drawing from those experiences. I also say that in chambers as a clerk, you would also get interns. So I was personally an intern before I became a law clerk. And the interns, the law clerk usually interviews, hires, supervises the interns. They're there to have experiences, but a lot of the experiences directly with you as a law clerk. The judge, of course, will, peek his head in if they want to have direct contact as far as like talking to him. He perhaps makes time, but like I said, we had a busy trial calendar. So most of the interaction between the interns was with me, the law clerk. So keep in mind that this also, if you're looking for a job that requires supervisory skills, this can provide you that supervisory experience that may be needed on a future job. Even if it's not law related, you actually have supervisory experience. I had to do evaluations for them. Sometimes it was even fellows. Like these are not even law students. These are fellows, people who have already graduated and are getting paid to do a fellowship with a judge. So you have all those kind of experiences on a daily basis when you're a law clerk for a trial court judge. So I kind of want to know what are you kind of into? Because I'm going to get into a little bit about the appellate level, but what are you guys into? Comment below. Okay, I know I did a video about how much do lawyers make. I kind of give you an idea of how much do judicial law clerks make. It's not necessarily a lot of money, right? But I found it interesting that I was making more money than some of these entry-level lawyer positions. In the DC court especially, I think it came in at a GS level 10. So at the time, I think I was making like 60-something thousand a year. And you might think that's low, but then I talked to some lawyers who were actually doing were actual lawyers, and they, coming straight out of law school weren't making too much more. So that was the state of affairs. This is 10 years ago. No. Yeah, 10 years ago. So it may be a little bit more now, but this is in the DC area. And it was based on locality too, because in my position, I was considered a federal employee or, a quasi-federal employee because DC is not a state, right? So keep that in mind. If you're applying for a DC state clerkship, then that's probably the level that you can anticipate getting paid. Now, when you get to the federal level, it may be a different scale. I think, though, they're kind of similar because we were quasi-federal in that sense, so they may have the same kind of compensation. But keep in mind, when you get to other levels, federal levels, and even the Supreme Court, remember at the beginning of the video, I said there were some signing bonuses. If you are anticipating going into big law after your clerkship, some of these big law firms offer signing bonuses for having that judicial experience under your belt. Yes, they're paying you for knowing how a judge thinks. Remember, I said you're basically working hand in hand with the judge about a lot of matters. You're kind of acting as a judge or actually getting the feel of how the judge thinks. That is liquid gold for firms. They want to know because their cases are before certain judges. They want to know, like, oh, you have the inside scoop. You know how these judges think. You'll be able to formulate briefs and motions that will perhaps win. So they're going to pay for your experience. I know in particular, if you become a Supreme Court judicial clerk, and they have multiple clerks, a lot of law firms offer, as of this year, signing bonuses up to $450,000. $450,000. You'll be making more than your Supreme Court justice, right? But granted, you don't become a judge because for the money is for the power. But you would be making more than a Supreme Court justice based off of your signing bonus of $450,000. And that's in addition to your regular salary. So that is one of the coveted spots. Granted, I don't have one of those spots and I didn't strive for one of those, but I do know one person that got that coveted spot. So keep in mind, if that's what you want to go for, then those spots are out there and they pay handsomely if you were able to get one of those coveted positions. Okay, so I'll mention, I talked mostly about the trial court clerkships because that's what my personal experience was in. But I wanted to mention also appellate court clerkships, because those are going to be a different breed. Basically, you're reviewing the trial court's findings and you're deciding whether the trial court was correct in its findings, right? So as I mentioned, it's not going to be as busy as a trial court calendar. Usually appellate judge is going to have oral arguments scheduled, and then a lot of the time it's just pouring over hearing transcripts and the record. And that's basically what is the sum of your experience is going to be reduced to, right? But I find it valuable because, like I said, if you want to go to the Supreme Court clerkship, having a previous appellate level clerkship would help you in that journey, because Supreme Court is appellate level clerkship, right? So I think it depends on where you want to go in your journey. Some people like to have that busy trial life to get that, experience with the trial. They can basically network with other attorneys while they're there because they're in the courthouse, the trial courthouse, versus appellate level. It's pretty straightforward. Like, this is the record. We're reviewing the record. There's a level of review for appellate court decisions, and that's what we do. So it just depends on what you're interested in and what your final destination is going to be. Think about that when you're deciding which court you should clerk in, as far as what state, which jurisdiction, whether it be federal or state, and whether you think that you're going to go for that Supreme Court clerkship. Keep in mind that you're going to kind of be grooming yourself well before it's time to be actually ready to apply for the clerkship. So comment below. I want to know if you have any questions. Are you contemplating applying for a clerkship? Did you just find out that you got one? Because I know some judges let it be known early. Sometimes for federal court judges, there's a certain application period that you have to apply through a formal system that you can't do until a certain period. So let me know. I want to know kind of what your journey is. I know we have people from all over the country, so let us know. We're happy for you and hopes to be able to encourage you with whatever position you pick.